Have you ever felt completely invisible, even when you're surrounded by people who are supposed to love you? Like you're screaming inside, but nobody hears you. That's exactly how I felt, and what happened next changed my life forever. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe to When Heart Speaks So. You never miss stories like mine that reveal the hidden truths of the human heart. My name is Sarah, and I need to tell you about the biggest mistake I ever made. It's a story about loneliness, secrets, and choices that I wish I could take back. If you've ever felt forgotten or invisible, you'll understand why I did what I did, even though I knew it was wrong. I'm in my 40s, and from the outside, my life looked perfect. I had a nice house with a pretty garden, a good husband named Mark, and a teenage daughter named Emily. Our house had family pictures on every wall, showing us smiling at birthdays and holidays. But those pictures were lying. Behind all those smiles, I felt empty inside that it didn't happen all at once. Nobody wakes up one day feeling invisible. It happens slowly, like the sun setting, until suddenly you're sitting in darkness and you don't know how you got there. That's what happened to me. Mark is a good man. He works hard and fixes things around the house without me asking. But somewhere along the way, he forgot about me. His job became everything to him. When he came home, he was tired and distant. Our conversations became boring and empty. We only talked about paying bills, buying groceries, and what time things needed to happen. The laughter we used to share disappeared. The house became quiet except for the refrigerator humming and the clock ticking, reminding me how alone I felt. My daughter Emily used to run to me when she had problems. Now she stayed in her room with her door closed, always on her phone or talking to friends. When I tried to talk to her, it was like knocking on a door that would never open. She wore headphones all the time, and my words just bounced off an invisible wall. I felt invisible even to my own child. Every night, I made dinner. I lit candles and made the food look nice. But Mark came home late from work, and Emily ate quickly while staring at her phone. They barely noticed I was there. After they left the table, I sat alone, looking at the dirty dishes, feeling more lonely than I ever thought possible. Then one day, someone noticed me. His name was Jason, and he was Mark's friend from college. He had always been around at our barbecues and family dinners. He was friendly and easy to talk to, the kind of person who made everyone smile. But I had never really paid attention to him before. Not in the way I started to. It began with small things. Jason actually listened when I talked. He looked into my eyes and acted like what I said mattered. He complimented my cooking and noticed when I got a haircut. These small things felt huge to me because nobody else seemed to care anymore. I found myself looking forward to the times when Jason stopped by our house to visit Mark. But Mark was rarely home, so Jason and I ended up talking alone more and more. I started telling Jason things I hadn't shared with anyone in years. My favorite books, memories from when I was a kid, dreams I had forgotten about. His attention felt like sunshine after living in darkness for so long. But underneath these innocent conversations, I felt something dangerous growing inside me. Something that made my heart beat faster, and my hands shake. Jason felt it too. His eyes would stay on me longer than they should. His smile seemed to carry a secret message that made me nervous and excited at the same time. At first, I told myself it was harmless, just a friendship that made me feel less alone. But deep down, I knew I was standing at the edge of something forbidden, something that could destroy everything I had built. I felt terrified and thrilled at the same time. For the first time in years, someone saw me not as a mom or a wife who did laundry and made meals, but as a real woman who deserved attention and care. Every night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing between thoughts of Mark and thoughts of Jason. I felt guilty but excited. I felt scared but alive. Have you ever stood at the edge of a cliff and looked down, knowing that one step could change everything. That's how I felt, trapped between doing the right thing and doing what felt so good it was impossible to resist. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a warm Saturday afternoon, and we were having a barbecue in our backyard. Neighbors were laughing and talking under the trees. Mark was busy cooking steaks at the grill, paying more attention to the food than to me. Emily sat away from everyone, texting on her phone. I moved around serving drinks and food, but I felt like a ghost that nobody could see. Then Jason arrived. The moment he walked through the gate, my heart started beating faster. When our eyes met, I felt something electric shoot through my body. I quickly looked away, embarrassed, but the feeling stayed with me like a fire burning inside. Jason walked through the crowd until he reached me. My cheeks felt hot as he came close. "Hey, Sarah," he said gently. "Everything looks great. You really know how to bring people together." It was just a simple compliment, but the way he said it with such warmth in his eyes touched something deep inside me that I had almost forgotten existed. "Thank you," I whispered back. "I'm glad you could make it." We stood there for a moment, and even though people were talking and laughing all around us, it felt like we were the only two people in the world. Then Jason reached for a plate on the table next to me. It was such a small, normal movement, but when he did it, his hand brushed against mine. Just the lightest touch, barely anything at all. But in that tiny moment, everything changed. Time seemed to slow down. I couldn't breathe. Heat rushed through my body. My heart pounded so loud I thought everyone could hear it. Our eyes met again, and I saw something in his look that made my stomach flip. A question. A knowing. Maybe even the same feelings I was having. "You okay?" Jason asked softly, and his voice sounded intimate, like we were sharing a secret. I nodded quickly, feeling embarrassed and confused. "I'm fine," I stammered, forcing a smile. But inside, I felt anything but fine. I felt shaken and vulnerable and more alive than I had felt in years. Jason smiled, almost like he knew exactly what I was feeling, then walked back into the crowd. My eyes followed him without my permission. I watched how easily he laughed, how people seemed drawn to him. My heart ached because I wanted so badly to feel that same connection, that same ease in my own marriage. For the rest of the day, I struggled to act normal. I kept stealing glances at Jason whenever I could, each time feeling guilty and excited. The barbecue continued like usual with neighbors laughing and eating, but something inside me had changed forever. In that moment, I felt truly seen for the first time in years. Jason hadn't just noticed me. He had awakened something I had buried deep down. A desire that felt as scary as it was impossible to resist. Looking back now, I realized that was the exact moment everything changed. That one innocent touch, that one lingering look. It was like lighting a match near dry wood. Something small enough to ignore, but powerful enough to start a fire that would burn everything down. In the days after that barbecue, I felt like I was walking through fog. My mind kept replaying that moment when Jason's hand touched mine, the warmth in his eyes, and how good it felt to be noticed. That every time I thought about Jason, guilt crashed over me like a wave. Mark was my husband. We had built a life together, raised our daughter, created memories. But lately it felt like Mark had forgotten I existed. I tried to push thoughts of Jason away. I forced myself to think about the good times with Mark, our anniversaries and vacations. I stared at our wedding photo on the table next to our bed, trying desperately to remember the love we used to feel. But as days turned into weeks, my loneliness only got worse. Mark kept coming home late, giving me quick smiles and short nods instead of real conversation. Our evenings were filled with heavy silence that made me feel like I was disappearing. Every night became a battle inside my head. I lay awake arguing with myself. How could I, a faithful wife, even think these thoughts? Jason was Mark's friend. Crossing that line would destroy friendships and ruin my marriage. Everything I had worked for years to build would fall apart. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jason's smile, promising comfort and an escape from the loneliness that was eating me alive. I whispered to myself in the dark, trying to make sense of my feelings. Is it wrong to want someone to notice me? To want to feel desired and seen and heard? My mind went to dark places that scared me. Places where I wondered what it would feel like to truly feel again. To be held and valued, not as a mom or a wife doing chores, but as a woman who deserved real connection. I would catch my reflection in the mirror and barely recognize myself. I saw a woman full of secrets, guilt, and longing. Was this who I had become? I paced the kitchen in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, fighting a war inside myself. You're betraying Mark just by thinking these thoughts, I told myself. You made promises. You have responsibilities, Sarah. But another voice whispered back, softer but stronger. But don't you deserve happiness? Don't you deserve to feel alive again? It was exhausting. This constant battle between what was right and what I wanted. Between loyalty and loneliness. I felt trapped between who I was supposed to be and who I secretly wished I could become. Every day that passed without real love from Mark. Every silent dinner, every evening feeling unseen pushed me a little closer to giving in. I became an actress in my own home. I smiled when Mark came home late. I made excuses for why he was never around and pretended not to feel hurt when Emily ignored me. I wondered if anyone would even notice if I disappeared. Then the text started. Jason sent me a message one afternoon. It was simple and innocent, saying he enjoyed our conversation at the barbecue and hoped we could talk more. My heart jumped when I read his words. I hesitated, typing and deleting my response over and over, feeling guilty for even replying. But finally, I did. Me too. It was nice to talk again. I thought I was still in control. I thought I could keep this as just a friendship. But soon, those occasional texts became frequent conversations. At first, Jason asked about my day, offering encouraging words that meant so much after years of feeling overlooked. Gradually, our topics changed. We talked about music, movies, personal dreams, and hidden fears. Conversations that felt intimate and dangerously close. I kept telling myself it was just friendship, a harmless escape from my loneliness. But deep down, I knew it was more. Each message from Jason lit up my phone and my heart at the same time. Each word felt like a gentle touch filling the emptiness Mark had left behind. I found myself counting the minutes until I would hear from him again. It wasn't long before our texts turned into secret meetings. Coffee downtown when I was running errands. Walks at the park that I could easily explain away if anyone asked. Every meeting felt exciting and dangerous. Each moment was loaded with anticipation and heavy secrets. When we were together, everything else faded away. And my heart pounded because I knew we were getting closer and closer to crossing an invisible line. Remember clearly sitting on a park bench with Jason beneath quiet trees. We talked easily, comfortably, like we had known each other forever. Jason shared stories from his life, his struggles and fears, his dreams and regrets. His honesty touched something deep inside me that I had never shown even to Mark. In that moment, I wanted desperately to share everything with Jason, to be truly known and understood by him. Jason turned toward me, his eyes searching mine carefully. His voice was softer than I had ever heard when he said, "You know, Sarah, you deserve someone who notices how incredible you truly are. Someone who sees you." My heart caught in my chest. I knew what he was saying without him saying it directly. And instead of pulling away like I should have, I found myself leaning closer, my heart racing, desperate for the warmth he was offering. My fingers trembled, fighting the urge to reach out and touch him. I kept convincing myself I was still in control. After all, we hadn't done anything physical yet. That each look, each whispered word, every careful touch was pushing against the boundaries I had promised never to cross. My internal battle got stronger every day. "This is wrong, Sarah," my conscience warned. But another voice argued back. "Don't you deserve this feeling? Haven't you given up enough? It's just friendship, right?" I was lying to myself, because underneath every excuse was a truth I couldn't deny. I was falling for Jason emotionally, and I didn't want to stop. Each night I tossed and turned, replaying our conversations over and over, filled with anxiety and longing. I felt addicted, powerless against my need for attention and validation. Mark and Emily had no idea about my struggle. They were comfortable and distracted, completely unaware of the storm destroying me from the inside. Jason's presence in my life grew stronger. Every stolen glance, every time his hand lingered near mine, every warm look spoke louder than words. We exchanged looks when Mark wasn't watching, secret smiles heavy with hidden meaning. Our relationship hovered in that dangerous space between friendship and something that could shatter everything. I was terrified but drawn closer every day. Deep down, I knew the truth. I was no longer in control. The pretend innocent friendship was crumbling, showing something raw and passionate underneath that I couldn't resist. One night, sitting alone in our quiet living room, staring at my phone, desperately waiting for Jason's name to appear, it hit me. I was already lost. I had lied to myself, pretending I could walk away anytime. But the truth was, I couldn't. Jason had already taken over my heart, filling spaces I had kept locked for years. I felt trapped but alive, scared but exhilarated, caught in emotions I could no longer control. Then came the night that everything fell apart. One of our neighbors was having a party. Mark was busy talking about work, his attention far from me. Emily was off with her friends. I drifted through the party, smiling but aching inside. Then across the backyard, I saw Jason standing alone, near the garden wall. Lanterns glowed softly around him. My heart immediately started racing. Our eyes locked from across the yard. It was just a brief look, but it felt like electricity crackling between us. I tried to look away, to resist, but something stronger than my willpower pulled me toward him. As I got closer, my breathing quickened. I felt reckless and daring, but completely drawn to him. "Hey," Jason said softly, his voice barely a whisper, sending shivers down my spine. "Hey," I responded quietly, my heart hammering in my chest, drowning out everything around us. We stood silently, tension building between us rapidly. I struggled to find words, desperate to break the heavy silence, but afraid to speak the truth. Jason finally spoke, stepping closer. "You look beautiful tonight, Sarah, but then you always do." My breath caught. Such simple words, but they shook me to my core. Tears filled my eyes. My heart ached for the warmth in his words, the warmth I had craved for so long. "Jason," I whispered, my voice shaking. "We shouldn't. This is dangerous." "I know," he replied softly, his eyes never leaving mine. "But Sarah, I can't help how I feel anymore." His words shattered the walls around my heart. I stood there, torn between loyalty and longing, caught between everything I had ever known and the man standing inches from me, offering the affection I had been denied. Then gently, Jason reached up and brushed a piece of hair from my face. His touch was electric. My heart surged. Tears blurred my vision. And suddenly, without thinking, I leaned into his touch, surrendering to the comfort and desire he offered. In a heartbeat, his lips softly touched mine. At first tentative, then deepening with urgency. My entire world exploded. Warmth flooded through me, passion taking over reason, my heart pounding as I melted into his embrace. The garden, the neighbors, my marriage, everything disappeared. All that mattered was Jason's kiss, erasing years of loneliness in a single moment. In that instant, everything changed. But just as quickly, reality came crashing down. I pulled back suddenly, breathless and trembling, overwhelmed by confusion, guilt and fear. Jason's eyes widened in surprise, his breathing ragged. "I'm sorry," I choked out. "I shouldn't have done this." Jason reached out, desperate. "Sarah, please." But panic surged through me. The full weight of what we had just done hit me brutally. "No, Jason, this can't happen." "Oh God, what have we done?" I turned away sharply, stumbling back toward the house, my vision blurred by tears. My mind raced frantically. Images of Mark and Emily flashed before my eyes. What had I done? I had betrayed the people I loved most, the life I had carefully built. And for what? One passionate kiss? A brief moment of feeling alive? I ran inside, heartbroken and ashamed, feeling completely lost. I hid in a quiet corner, fighting tears and nausea, my heart aching with regret. I had crossed the line, shattered my vows, broken trust in a moment of weakness. But even through the guilt, I couldn't deny the truth. For those few seconds, I had felt truly alive, fully seen, completely loved. It tore me apart inside. How could something that felt so right be so terribly wrong? In that moment, I knew there was no going back. The party continued around me with laughter and music. But I felt worlds apart, isolated by my betrayal, trying desperately to understand how one decision had forever changed my life. Little did I know, that kiss was just the beginning of even more pain. In the days that followed, I felt trapped inside my own life. Guilt followed me everywhere like a shadow. Sleep became impossible. Each night I stared at the ceiling, replaying the moment Jason's lips touched mine, haunted by the betrayal. At home, every interaction felt strained. Mark continued his routines, oblivious as always. But now every conversation felt painfully forced. Each time he spoke to me, each casual question about my day felt like he was interrogating me. At breakfast, he would look up from his newspaper and ask, "You okay, Sarah? You seem distracted." Those simple words sent panic through me. I forced a tight smile, mumbling vague answers, avoiding eye contact, afraid he would see straight through me into the guilty truth. Even Emily noticed. I caught her watching me carefully, her teenage instinct sensing something had changed. Her innocent questions like, "Mom, what's wrong? You seem quiet lately," cut through me like knives. Each question felt like an accusation, making my heart race. I became hyper-aware of everything I did around my family. Each text message on my phone filled me with dread, afraid someone would notice and question me. Every time Mark left the room, anxiety spiked through me, fearing he might suspect the shame burning inside me. But the most painful part was Jason himself. The ease between us had vanished, replaced by unbearable awkwardness. We avoided each other desperately. No more texts, no more stolen conversations. Instead, there was silence, a painful silence loaded with unspoken guilt and regret. We would see each other occasionally at neighborhood events, but each interaction was torture, strained and heavy. Our eyes would briefly meet, and in that quick glance, 1,000 silent apologies passed between us. I remember one evening clearly. Our families gathered at another neighbor's home. Jason stood only feet away, talking casually with Mark and others. But beneath his polite smile, I felt his discomfort. He glanced at me briefly, and in that one look, I saw everything. Guilt, shame, longing, fear. Every smile he gave Mark was torture for me. Every joke he made felt fake. I drifted to the edge of the room, pretending to check my phone, desperate to escape the suffocating pressure of our shared secret. But worst of all was watching Mark act friendly and oblivious, laughing easily with Jason like nothing had changed. Watching their casual friendship continue made my betrayal feel sharper, deeper, impossible to ignore. Eventually, Jason excused himself and slipped outside onto the patio. I felt an urge to follow, to speak, to ease the unbearable guilt between us. That fear held me frozen. I couldn't trust myself, afraid that one moment alone would lead to more mistakes. So I stayed frozen, watching through the glass door as Jason stood alone, shoulders hunched, head bowed, clearly burdened by the same guilt haunting me. My heart broke quietly, realizing our brief passion had destroyed more than trust. It had destroyed our friendship and peace, leaving us trapped in loneliness deeper than before. Returning home that night, anxiety gripped every thought. Did Mark notice my strange behavior? Did Emily sense my quiet panic? Every word they spoke felt like suspicion. Every silence felt like an accusation. At dinner, I forced conversation, pretending to smile and act normal. But inside I trembled, afraid that any moment someone would point a finger and expose me completely. Jason became distant from everyone. Neighbors noticed him withdrawing. Every whispered conversation among friends felt like it was about me, about us. I was consumed by fear that someone knew, that somehow our secret had slipped out. I started avoiding social events, terrified of seeing Jason, terrified our hidden shame would surface. Each ring of my phone filled me with dread. Every knock at the door felt like disaster approaching. I was living in constant fear, haunted by paranoia and my own reckless choices. But through it all, my heart still ached, because beneath the crushing guilt, part of me desperately missed the warmth and comfort Jason had briefly given me. My betrayal had broken me deeply, but it had also awakened something I had buried for years. It was agony, an impossible mix of pain and need. In trying to feel less invisible, I had made myself utterly alone, trapped by a secret that now held me prisoner.